Good afternoon, everybody, and it's a real pleasure today to be speaking with Dr. Ernest Mureithi. Dr. Mureithi, we were talking earlier, and you're currently the Regional Director of GEMS Africa.
That's correct.
You were, in another life, you were a doctor.
Yes, I was.
I will use the next opportunity to inquire as to what led you to make this leap from being a doctor into education, but just wanted you to tell us a little bit about GEMS, firstly. Who are they? Let's start with that. Who are they? Because when I look them up, it tells me that they're the biggest education provider in the world. Is that true? And can you give us a little bit of background?
Yes, Ali, that is correct. GEMS Education is an education company.
Yeah.
They are indeed the largest private education provider in the world. And they're headquartered in the Middle East.
Yes.
And this operation we have in Kenya, this is the headquarters of the Africa division. Now, GEMS is spread across 20 countries and has about maybe 250 schools around the world, and about 15,000 employees. And so it's a large company. It's a very large company providing K-12 education. So we don't provide university education. We provide K-12, and we have about 300,000 students.
That's incredible.
In the network. And this is the company of Sunny Varkey and his family.
Yes, and reading up about it, I think it was Sunny's parents who came to Dubai.
It was. Mr. and Mrs. Varkey Sr., about 50, 60 years ago, moved from South India and established an education business in Dubai around the time Dubai was beginning to become Dubai. So they provided a good product, and it caught very well. And later, when Mr. Sunny Varkey grew and took over leadership, he grew it to what it is today. And it was a good story there.
An excellent one. And of course, I was also reading about this teacher prize you have, where you give $1 million to...
And that is the personal initiative of Mr. Sunny Varkey.
Yes.
And he organizes it and runs it himself. And he does it to celebrate teachers. And one lucky teacher, after a series of evaluations, which last a whole year, gets awarded $1 million every March.
Coming up soon.
Yes, next month actually, 22nd.
Dr. Mureithi, if you look at the history of GEMS education, it was predominantly a Middle Eastern education business. Dubai, flagship schools, and then in that region. Can you tell us a little bit about, when did the business start to spread its wings, where it spread its wings, and then tell us a little bit about the Africa piece of the equation?
So GEMS has, for a little while, been outside of the UAE. And again, this is in line with the vision of the chairman and the chairman's family, where they believe good education should be given to every child, not just well-to-do children or children in the Middle East. And so they ventured out into UK, Europe. There's a robust business in the UK and Europe. There are schools in the eastern part of the world, around Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, and in the Americas as well. We have schools in Chicago. And most recently, the new baby, more or less, is Africa.
Yes.
So Africa began 6 years ago in Nairobi and has spread from then into Uganda. And then we shall begin spreading to other countries. For now, we only cover Kenya and Uganda.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you said 6 years ago, I assume that was the...
That was the GEMS Cambridge International School in Nairobi.
But now, obviously, everyone's got terribly excited. Firstly, because there seems to be a lot of activity, Dr. Mureithi, in the education sector in East Africa. I mean, you were talking to me about Nova Pioneer. I was reading about some buyouts at the end of last year. Can you just give us a sense of what's driving all this activity, and then we can maybe go and have a look at what you're doing?
Well, we have definitely begun to see a lot of interest in the area, especially around international education and from international companies, international education companies. And I believe this has been fueled by a growing population in the African continent, especially in East Africa, where the economic levels of East Africans are going up. The desire for good quality education is going up, and many of these families can afford better and better levels of education. And so you have companies like Nova, which are now have two actually. They've just opened a new campus in Athi River. And these are good quality local curriculum schools, national curriculum schools. You have the Crawford School in Tatu Cities, an international curriculum school owned by the Advertech Group of South Africa. And then you have the same group through their other division called Shole Schools, which acquired Makini School. You have the Sabis International School over in Runda.
Yes.
That's the joint venture with Centum.
Yeah.
And so we have been seeing growth
and we shouldn't ignore schools that have been there for a long time, like the one you've acquired, which is Hillcrest. And there have been, I was thinking about this, there are many schools which have been in existence all this time, Aga Khan, Visha Oswal, many St. Mary's. So it's quite a vibrant sector, it seems to me, and there is a reasonable offering for parents.
Yes, there is. And parental tastes are also changing. So there's a bit of a demand for better and better quality, better teaching practices, more and more extracurricular activities, so it's not just academics. So you'll find a lot of schools giving parents more options in that area, like aquatics, sport, performing arts. And so there's definitely a vibrant parental community that's demanding these services, and that community is growing. It's not remaining static. And hence the opportunity to take advantage of that, even from a group like GEMS. We are also an international company who have come into the East African market, and we seek to provide the market with good solutions of a world-class nature as far as schools is concerned.
And tell me now about the acquisition of Hillcrest, what you're seeking to do with that. I think it was the front page every day for a few days.
Yes,
everyone got terribly excited. But I know it had been, on a go shop mode for a while. It was owned by a private equity player. So, what was the rationale behind that purchase, and what are you trying to do with what is quite a iconic brand in the Kenyan education world?
Correct. Yeah, we are excited to have managed to get this far with Hillcrest. And yes, Hillcrest was in the process of looking around for suitors, and we are quite happy and excited that it could be GEMS, because we are an education company and we have been acquiring schools around the world for a while. And when we do acquire schools, first of all, we stay with them for a while. So because we take a long-term view on education. So we're not in quick and out quick. We tend to stay for a while, improve on the school, improve on the teaching and learning, and get the school to a level that can provide students good quality education that they can take to any other part of the world. So we got interested in Hillcrest for obvious reasons. It's a good brand, it's a good name. It's an old legacy school that has established itself in this market. And so when we looked at it, it ticked many boxes, and we felt we could add value. Because of the way GEMS is as a global company, we could provide a global cover and a global network to the school. We could help the kids with university placements, university education, in terms of helping them apply to places in university. We would be able to give high standards of teaching and learning in the school. Not to say it isn't, but because of many years of experience at GEMS, we believe there is value that we can add as well.
Will you keep the same curriculum, or will you look to change that? Or, how does it work?
Fortunately, the curriculum is British national. So Hillcrest teaches a British curriculum school, and we also have many British curriculum schools in the network, in the group. So we aim to keep the curriculum, because that's what it is, and it's been like that from day one. And so we intend not to change the curriculum.
Ernest, if you look at the education offering, obviously there are many different price points. You're describing the British curriculum, a quite exclusive school Hillcrest was, but there are many different price points in education. Not everybody can afford a Hillcrest education. Tell us a little bit about your strategy in Africa, because if you think about Africa, more than 1 billion people. Kenya itself is producing more than 1 million kids every year. Are you looking at multi-delivery points for your product, or how would you describe what you're trying to achieve on the continent?
Yes, we are. And this is consistent with what GEMS stands for across the world. So not just in Africa. because we have schools in multiple fee tiers around the world. You have premium schools, you have mid-market schools, and we have a few bottom of the pyramid schools in Uganda. And so
in Uganda,
we have some BOP schools, and I'll tell you a bit about those. And we aim to provide good education within the reach of every child, irrespective of what the parent can pay. And if you look across these schools, you will find common and consistent quality around the schools, irrespective of fee point. For example, over in the north of Nairobi, off Kiambu Road, in Runda, we are just completing the construction of a national curriculum school, which is a significant improvement to the other national curriculum schools in the country, because it's been built, it's a state-of-the-art school, but we'll be teaching national curriculum at modest fee. And in Uganda, like I told you, we have the Dream Africa, right to the bottom, schools that are...
A BOP school is charging a parent what?
Between $200 and $400 a year.
Right.
So it's significantly affordable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for you, this is a kind of a blank canvas we're talking about here in Africa, right? Hillcrest is just one step in what I imagine you are foreseeing as many, many steps.
Yes, Hillcrest is one step. And remember, we aim to provide good quality education to as many countries as we can. We know that Africa needs good education. And when good education comes to Africa, we'll begin to see a lot of very good innovations coming through.
Yes.
GEMS also desires that what we've built over the last 50, 60 years, that we're able to share that. And Africa is a dynamic continent. It's growing every day, as much as it's many different countries, but the dynamics are becoming very positive, and the continent is really growing. And one key offering that the continent will need over time is good education.
Yes, I mean, I was reading some research from an economist called Charlie Robertson. He said, look, if you want to industrialize and you want to advance your economy, you need to educate and you need electricity. And I think you're going you're taking one of those steps.
Yes.
So to paint us a picture of, we know Hillcrest, we know the second school on the Kiambu Road.
Yes.
What do you imagine the GEMS education business to look like in, let's say, a few years' time?
Well, it'll be a collection of schools. And these, of course, will be driven by research and driven by what the market requires. But there'll be a number of premium schools across a number of countries, predominantly beginning with East Africa. And then we will invest a bit more on the mid-market level because the population there is a bit bigger. We will continue to gradually grow our BOP business, but that will be, the position of GEMS in Africa will be multi-tier rather than focusing on only one specific area. There may be, of course, differences here and there. It won't be like equal expansion. But what we can expect from GEMS in the next number of years is a growing presence in not just one or two countries, but a growing presence across Africa.
Ernest, if you look at GEMS, what is the competitive advantage that GEMS has compared to all the other schools we see around here?
That's a good question, and GEMS, remember, has been teaching and learning for a long time. Yeah. So we've really mastered the art of delivering information to children. And so I think one of our greatest advantages is just the talent, the ability to provide good quality education, because that's what Spanish looks for. We train our teachers when we hire them in the way they are supposed to do it. So we use that experience because we've been teaching for over 50 years.
Yes.
We have an education training institute in Dubai that is able to give guidance on those kind of trainings. And the power of a global network goes without saying.
So you're saying that really has a network effect in favor of someone like GEMS, because you've got such visibility over.
We have visibility. We have resources to borrow on. We can pull within the network. There are skill sets and there are resources that we can harness and bring to any nation that we go to that maybe a local school in that particular country may not able to provide. So the network does give us certain things that we can get to improve the offering that we're providing.
And Ernest, if you look at education, it's such a big topic these days. I was speaking to the University of Columbia not too long ago, and what I'm seeing is a huge appetite in Africa for education, right? Our parents, have always wanted to educate us. It's not as if people wanted to skip that. People will skip a meal. And how do you know, what is the end product of your of GEMS? Are these employable people? Are these, you know, what are you looking to get them into the best universities? Where do you give yourself a pat on the back?
Yeah. Well, GEMS provides a basic education, and we desire that our children, after we provide the basic education, are able to go into the world for a number of things. Some will end up in good universities, and we try and provide a pipeline. We have a career counseling and investment placement service that we offer in the various schools around the world. And the idea is to make sure that the children are able to transition from a GEMS education to a good university, wherever that will be, because it's different for different families and they choose differently. But eventually what we desire is to see adults who are contributing positively to society. And in a country like Africa, which could do with a lot of these advanced skills, we hope that in the future you will see more Africans getting the best education and coming back home and developing their countries into the countries they desire.
My final question is around the actual science of pedagogy. You know, the idea, I remember in the old days, you know, it was a blackboard and it was rota learning. And then, you know, now I see that in the top schools, the kids will have some kind of iPad or something. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of education and where do you think it's going?
Yeah. Well, you will, again, like you say, when we were younger, the teacher stood in front of the class and the teacher was the holder of all knowledge.
Yes.
And we were required to spit it back through a test. Those systems are changing. We are moving more towards an inquiry-based learning, where the child is stimulated to think and solve problems and identify problems and develop competencies within the child. And and you've seen it here in Kenya as well, with the government replacing the 844 system with a competency-based curriculum, which is based on inquiry. And so because of that, the world is moving more to encouraging free thinking and encouraging children to solve problems and develop the knowledge from the children up, where the teacher serves, yes, as a mentor and as a facilitator. The teacher will still provide information, but unlike our days when you couldn't say much to the teacher or think outside that little box, nowadays we are encouraging children to be more innovative and more creative.
So from your perspective, it must be quite an exciting moment to have the responsibility bringing this sort of very successful global, multi-generational education business to the continent.
It is exciting. It's also a learning curve, because we may have done well in the Middle East, but we have to understand what is in the local context.
And that Africa is not the Middle East.
No. So we have to adapt and still bring the quality that we know we have, but make sure it's relevant and adapt it so that when you deliver it, you get the right results.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Real pleasure.
Anytime.
Thank you
very much.